And welcome back. Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? We've got another winner's bracket game for you here today. We've got Magnetonics versus Genosect. Why don't you lead us in on this one, B Flattened?
So I was looking at the teams for both of them during the break that we had there, and I think we really have to hone in on Scaravolt here because there's Scaravolt on both sides, on both players' teams. However, Genosect has two Earths, looking at the Dario for sure, whereas Magnetonics only has the one Earth on their side, and it's going to seem like Scaravolt might be able to play fairly free here. But we were talking about Tuvine just before the break, and Tuvine is also on Magnetonic's side, whereas Genosect also has the two mentals in question, the Naga and the Adoraboros. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Pick Ban is going to be appearing in the early game.
Absolutely. We've buried the lead a little bit here, though. This, to my knowledge, is the very first ever, in competitive Temtem history, our very first Brock-off. Two players playing a Bracholum against each other. And we are headed into that matchup. Oh, bracket first. So this is the final match to determine who will be moving on to day number 2 on the winner's side. So top 6 will happen on day 2, and you can see there, looking at the bracket, that we've already got Plat, Yurem, and Lulutror representing in the winner's bracket. While the loser's bracket continues to play down on the bottom, we know that Argan has defeated Anilacho, but I believe the other two series are still being played. And there'll be some more loser's bracket action to come after more casts. So let's take a look at the matchup then. What else jumps out to you here, B Flattened? What do we got?
Well, we know that we both have open deer info on both sides, so we know that Saipat does have the Schween's Horn, meaning that the Nox Bomb is going to be hitting very hard on the Saipat side. Where that's going to make a difference, Rumper Scaravolt jumps out immediately. Tuvine is also looking very nice, but there's also the Broccolum, as you mentioned, on the other side. Both with Sensei Robe on both sides here, so that'll be interesting. Genosect is also running the Yowler that we got to see Plat play earlier. Whether or not it's fairly similar, we don't know, but the winner's call is probably definitely on this Yowler to close out games. And no mentals on Magnetonic's side, so it might be a ban.
Yeah, we can see right away as we get into the draft coming up here that Genosect is on blue side. An interesting aspect of Magnetonics' team is the presence of this Tatsu. So the Tatsu does have this tag team trait, which is going to make a lot of the wins and melees on the Magnetonics' side of the board very bulky. Now that is going to be particularly relevant because Genosect is running 2 mentals and 2 electrics. So being able to protect wind and melee from taking super effective damage can be quite nice here. And much like in previous games where we've seen Adoro and Naga on a team together, we see the Adoro banned out and the Naga left. So Magnetonics likely has some sort of preset plan to deal with Naga, so he's quite happy to ban Adoraboros and play the draft from there.
Yeah, to counter the Naga, you gotta wonder if the Scaravolt is speed stuffed on purpose to deal with Naga.
Yeah, it would be interesting, right? Because I think we did see that from Genosect. I would imagine, though, when we saw Yurem outspeed Agario with the Scarabolt using Embers, that likely wasn't a scuffed Scarabolt. So different players having different ideas on how much. For those of you who are new, scuffing just means reducing the SV of your speed stat down to a certain amount, so your attempt speed is even low than the base number would appear, to make it slower for things like Deceit Aura, which inverts speed, similar to Trick Room in Pokemon, if you've played it before. But we do have the draft coming out. Yowler's going to be picked first on blue, and immediate Tatsu Broccolum. Magnetonics initiating the Brock off. Let's see if Genosect responds.
Previously, we were talking about the quote-unquote new Genosect, the not stall Genosect. We're looking at a kind of like a bulky aggro rather than a buffing stall style that Genosect is used to.
Yeah, interesting. We didn't see Genosect go for the late tournament opener, that we saw him do against Argon. Instead, there's Scarabolt, his, I believe, good friend, just to prevent the Yowler from being doubled into. It's a good defensive option. We do know that this Scarabolt is bait, so it won't be vulnerable to the turn 2 play of, for example, Haito Uchi, which is very commonly used by Tatsus on turn 2 in order to help protect them, particularly from electric Tems. So I would say the advantage in the lead kind of looks like it's favoring Genosect a little bit here. We do see the second bans come out. The Brockhoff has been denied, as the second Broccolem has been banned, and Hazmat and Gario banned out for Magnetonics.
Because Yowler also has Nutritious Bars, so if it is going to be taking this single target hit due to the good friend Scarabolt, it's going to be able to heal back some of that damage so that Yowler can stick on the board even longer, getting these holds up. Winner's Call is going to be the goal of this Yowler in the end, I would imagine.
For sure. We see one Scarabolt left behind as Psypat will be the last Tem, and let's get into our last round of upper bracket round 2, Genosect versus Magnetonics. So what do we think's going down turn 1 here?
That's a good question. I feel like clinch is coming from Yowler for sure. Tatsu may not like to stick in with a potential Scarabolt Thunderstrike here, but it's probably going to be very tanky with that tag team. We do see that Marbles is on Tatsu. Did some chip damage on the Scare and the Yowler, so it's not going to be a Nutritious Bar to heal back any of that damage. But yeah, that swap did come in. Doesn't want to look at a Thunderstrike. It is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, man. Here comes the T-Vine in the meantime. Oh, Soul Shout gonna damage the Scarabolt. The Scarabolt, bait triggered up, so this will be a very stamina-efficient Thunderstrike. Tuvine's gonna take the hit, and in the meantime, clinch coming down. Does it get it over 50? Yes, it does, just barely. So can't quite take that attack again, but a little bit of chip damage onto the Scarabolt turn 1 opens up some possibilities for both players on turn number 2.
Yeah, I think Genosect just enjoys doubling up into that slot there, because if it was Tatsu, it takes a lot of damage. If it swaps out, which it did, takes a lot of damage, drops it underneath 50%. There's no tag team live because Tatsu's in the back, so this Tuvine and Brock Goblin are not going to be protected with that trait. Tyrannac can probably deal with the Brock Goblin later, so I think ignoring the Brock Goblin for now is okay.
Yeah, it
suplex up with the Yowler.
A bit of a HP debt for the Tuvine, though, is it's got to watch out for like a fire move coming out from Scara here. This is sort of where the type chart from Magnetonics presents some problem against fire, as we can see that Double Nature and a Crystal, with these fire moves available from Scarabolt and Tyrannac, they're going to have to play around them. This is going to be very interesting to see if Broccolem can get down a Bark Shield or something to maybe mitigate that weakness.
It's kind of where the Psypad plays in to this game a little bit later, because it is the Schween's Horn.
Yeah, absolutely. In the meantime, it's the only Tem that really threatens Scarabolt, so no surprise we see Genosect swap it out. Tyrannac's going to be coming in on that side instead. And it's well swapped, as the Crystal Plume Gatling doesn't register very much, and it's more than bulky enough to take this Soul Shout. Sensei Rogue triggered up.
Oh, it's an Oshidashi.
Yeah, Genosect revealing that from last time. Magnetonics likely knew that was coming, but you see it doesn't do enough to take it down. So even though the Yowler has the Oshidashi, it's still going to have to expend more stamina to make something happen. The interesting thing about this board is that the Broccolem's trait is turned off if the Tyrannac tries to hit it here, so it's not going to get a value swap in. And Noxious Bomb coming down from the Tuvine. This is going to damage the Tyrannac, and it's got the outspeed. Will the Soul Shout just bring it down? Intimidator blocks good friend Genosect, caught by his own Dino's tricks, and he's going down.
Good friend would have been very clutch there to save his Tyrannac, but unfortunately Intimidator was still live there.
Yeah, and we see the Yowler coming back in. Genosect very happy.
Up. We are 2 turns away from a live winner's call.
2 or 3. The big thing here for Magnetonics is that he's starting to run out of stamina on Broccolum. I wonder if he's not packing Gaia, which is fairly common. Let's see here. CPG into the Scarable. Yeah, solid damage. It's going to be Inner Spirit instead. This will likely overexert the Brock. Will it KO the Volt? Wow, look at that damage. Sensei Robe amping it up. Not very different to the Mithridatism Broccolum that Genosect favors. This Broccolum is all about dealing the damage. It's going to go ahead and take this hit. The Suplex will trigger up the Camouflage trait, protecting Broccolum for this turn. A bit of a waste, as it's likely going to want to swap out, being overexerted. But it could stay on the board here if need be.
Got ourselves a Grumper up here. Kind of safe because it's not going to be taking the Soul Shout or Inner Spirit. The Rock Goblin is not only out of stam, it is overexerted, and Inner Spirit was just used last turn. So Rock Goblin cannot threaten this Grumper any longer. Like I said, a swap is likely here.
Did Genosect clinch turn 1 with Yowler, or did he swap it out?
He did clinch turn 1 with Yowler.
This Yowler doesn't. This Yowler doesn't have Winter Call or Hibernate. He's 4 attacks. Clinch, Suplex. We just saw Suplex, so that's Clinch, Suplex, Oshidashi, Late Torment.
Yeah, so there's no Winner's Call there.
Yeah, this is not a raid boss Yowler. It's just one that can deal damage with attacks. If Magnetonics can pick up on that, that drastically changes the way that he plays the rest of this game.
They're going for some good damage into the Yowler here. Sidepat coming in to square off with his Grumper.
Likely. Yeah, a swap that Magnetonics is likely going to regret, as that's huge damage. The clinch could be enough to finish off the Pat. Will it hang on?
Oh, yes. Just barely.
That does put quite a bit of pressure onto Genosect, as the Saku now has very few ways of being dealt with, and represents a very powerful double into the Grumper slot. As the Broccolum coming in instead, with no ways to scale up the Yowler in terms of damage. This is a very difficult match for Genosect to finish, because Tag Team is going to come in and apply so much bulk to the rest of Magnetonic's team. But I think Genosect might be out of gas here.
This Grumper slot is pinned down because the only swap in that this Grumper has is Volphy, and it's neither Tem enjoys any of the melee moves that are coming into its way here with the Nichosai and the Soul Shout double in to kill the Grumper. Very good way to pin a slot down.
Yeah, another overexertion on the Brock, but I really don't think Mag cares too much, as now Sidepat's going to go down. But this is a free board for Tatsu to re-emerge. Yowler's out of stamina. It can't scale up. And this is one of the issues with this matchup. Tatsu puts Magnetonics in this super strong advantage state where not only is he bulkier thanks to Tag Team, but he's also faster because these Tems have much higher natural base speed. Tems like Brock, Sidepat, Tuveen, and Tatsu getting ahead of Tems like Scarable, Tyrannak, and Grumper, creating huge advantage states for Magnetonics. If you see Plague come out, how will Mag respond?
Oh, the show off. It's going to push off a status here, too. It's not going to be getting the positive status, though. It's just going to push off the negative there due to the Plague.
Yeah, and that's more than fair damage from Genosect, but the problem is that's exactly what it is. Fair damage. Tatsu's Tag Team is just reducing it enough that even though they got Plague Late Torment off, it's not going to deal enough to score the KO. Volphy setting up a Late Torment onto the Broccolum next turn, but it's going to probably pay with its life, as here comes the Inner Spirit turn, I believe, from, yes, the overexertion from Volphy is nice, but this Yowler has so much work it needs to get done. There's a full HP Saku in the back.
It's not a bulk up Yowler either. No Hibernate, no Winter's Call, nothing. It has just attacks to go through to swing over a Brock Goblin, a Tatsu, and yeah, like you said, a fresh Saku in the back. There's no way that Genosect can get over that wall.
Yeah, very well played by Magnetonics. Kind of recognizing the advantage that he has in that matchup. where tag team is so powerful. If I can just keep tag team for as long as possible while letting the game go longer and longer and longer, eventually it's not like Argon's match against Geno, where the Tems are low enough HP that Geno can just punch through them. This is a case of like, it's like a huge football linebacker going up against an even bigger football linebacker. And it's just like they're hitting each other, and Mag just has a little more speed and power right now. Let's see if Geno can figure out something in game 2, as we're going to get right back into our draft here. What do you think will change in this draft, B-Flat?
I think banning the Tatsu is probably the best thing that Genosect can have going for him at some point, because, yeah, Tatsu is keeping a lot of Magnetonics walls up. You have the Brock Goblin, you have the Psypat, you have the Two Vine, you have all of these really bulky Tems that can deal with Genosect's team, all while being under the influence of tag team. The ban of the Hazrat is interesting to me, considering there's a Volphy and a Grumper that exist that can deal with it fairly decently.
This is an almost complete pivot from Genosect, though, right? This Broccolum didn't even make it into the game in game number 1, and now it's first picked here at the start of game number 2. I will say, one of the things that tilts this even more in Magnetonics' favor, it really sucks to be in a bulk versus bulk fight and to be the one with Naga, right? Like, Geno has Naga on the team, Magnetonics doesn't. Magnetonics' team gives absolutely no cares about Nagais in this game. And I might be about to eat my words here, because it looks like Geno's thinking of picking it. But is that going to be correct?
It's hovering similar bands here, but a completely different opener. So this is going to be interesting how the first couple of turns are being played. It is a pick of the Naga. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm super surprised if Magnetonics is going to let this fly. Although now, this is sort of interesting. We know that Mag is playing Show Off on the Tatsu, right? We've seen Feather Gatling. We've seen Haito Uchi, or we assume it as Haito Uchi, because that's like the one move you're supposed to have on this Tem. He has a 2V. So it's possible that Magnetonics is not playing Noxious Bomb and is playing Humiliating Slap instead to get that advantage state with 2V. In that case, the Naga won't die turn 1. If that's not the case, the Naga will almost certainly die turn 1 to Noxious Bomb plus Petal Dagger, which is a huge buff to Saku's nature-based offense on turn 1. If Saku has Petal Dagger and can smack the Naga with it, all of a sudden this Naga's not safe on the board, and that's one of the reasons why this matchup can be so difficult, is that it's rather easy to slap a few coverage moves on your team, and even like stab coverage in the case of Saku, and be very solid into Naga. But we'll see how it progresses. What's your thoughts on the rest of the draft?
I don't know if we've seen Saku's trait yet either, because I could determine which of its moves is going to be swinging for more damage here. The Botanist, or why can't I remember the other trait? The one that boosts wind damage.
Air Spec.
Yeah. So I don't know if we've seen Saku's trait revealed yet.
We haven't seen the trait reveal. We can extrapolate that the Saku is likely carrying Narcoleptic Hit, because we know, as just Genosect, that it's an emergent or energy drink Saku. So it isn't able to fall asleep. That means, and that plus the lack of mentals on Magnetonic's team indicates that he's probably running Narco Hit as a coverage move to nail Tems like Yaller. Thus, you see Genosect maybe not picking it, as Yaller didn't seem too strong in that matchup without a way to scale up. Here we go, game number 3, Mag versus Genosect, with a spot in top 6 on the line.
Yeah, I wonder how Decidor is going to be playing into this matchup here. There's also Marbles and Decidor on here, so there's a little bit more damage on the guys on this first turn.
If the Nog is able to make it through to future turns, we know that Genosect is Marathonist Broccolum, so Marathonist reducing the speed is actually an upside if you're in Decidora. So let's see what the players go for here. Magnetonics seems like he's going to blink first. It's Tatsu leaving the match in favor of Scarabolt.
This is going to be the Naga counter, most likely.
The Betaverse is going to fly into it. That's pretty solid damage. And Saku just goes for a Lifeless Sap.
There's a
Marathonist kicking in. Yeah. The Soul Shout connecting with the Scarable. Now, all of a sudden, this gets very dicey for Magnetonics. Because the Deceit Aura actually plays into Genosect's favor. Because Mag didn't sit in and hit the Naga on turn 1, now it's all of a sudden changing the game. Soul Shout, and we saw that Beta Burst plus Soul Shout did enough to KO to 48% to the Scarable, right? Psysurge has the same damage as Beta Burst. So if Marathonist means that Broccolum now underspeeds Scarable in DA, this is very bad for Mag, because Scarable will get hit by both moves and die before it can attack. So it's a very tricky dance that Magnetonics has to deal here. Will the Naga stay in and get hit by Frond Whip all the same? It's hard to say. This is a very dicey turn for both players.
This is where nerves really kick in, because this turn right here can absolutely decide the mid game, maybe even late game. It's a very stressful turn. I imagine that the clock is going to be running down very low on this one. Trying to think or even calc this one out, because the Naga is going to leave just in case.
Yeah, it's Scara. This is a pretty safe board for Scarable to come into. This means, however, that the Scarable won't get to go. Oh, the Narco hit! My goodness.
Speed Arrow showed up
Saku, yeah, got ahead there. Marathon is going to drop the speed again. Brock going for the Soul Shout. Mag actually stays in on Scarebolt here. Is he just going to Embers this thing? No, it's E-Storm, so... I mean, Genosect got punished for not going for the Psysurge play there, I suppose. Scared of the Frond Whip. Had to back out. But rewarded in the sense that the Scarable didn't go for the fire move to punish Broccolum. But now the situation is reversed. Broccolum is now slower than Scarable, which means that Fire Tornado, that represents a very threatening board state alongside Frond Whip, if Saku's got that available.
Naga's no longer on the field to reverse that speed anymore, so this Rock Goblin is probably going to be the slowest Tem on this board. It may even have to swap out here to safety if it's... it is being threatened by this Fiery Tornado by Scara. Does Brock Goblin get saved here? It does have the Inner Spirit up, and we might want to see that later for the 2-Vine, maybe even Gario.
I would imagine with Decidora still in the back, it's definitely value to try and save Broccolum. Like, it doesn't have a way to protect itself. As we do see reserve time, like you mentioned, is running low. 15 seconds on the blue side, unless we're actually waiting on... I believe this is actually on Genosect's side. He's running down to just about 5 seconds of reserve here. Scarebolt leaves. It's going to be Volphy coming in on this side. Will it be a double swap? Mag leaves on Saku.
There's a 2-Vine. Maybe thinking that Brock Goblin was going to leave? Doesn't. There's a Fiery Tornado. It's a very dead broccoli.
Yeah, that's some steamed broccoli to go with your dinner there, as Fire Tornado is going to take care of it. And Volphy really well positioned to threaten the Scarebolt as well. So not a total loss for Genosect. But first blood to Magnetonics in the matchup here. Have to think Naga can't come in for Geno here. So both of these Tems kind of lined up for damage from the crystal attack.
Volphy really gets here is DV gets taken off hold. Is really all the Volphy got off that swap there, besides wanting to take out the Tem for safety.
It's in position to threaten Scarebolt quite substantially. There is a Saku swap in that can come in from Magnetonics for that, but it has to start to be careful of the Scara's potential to take action with fire moves. So we see both players stay in. CPG is just going to go ahead and hit hard. DV just going to go ahead and bring down Mag Scarable.
Oh, there's the Embers. No burn though, because the bait pushes it off, but 20% damage for an Ember is not too bad on a 2-Vine. Once that bait goes away, the Embers is going to get the burn off.
This looks like an ideal board for Gario to appear on now. Would not be surprised at all if Mag goes for it. Yeah,
getting
Scarable
the,
taking just that bit of chip from CPG means that Soil Steam is absolutely going to destroy it. So it has to swap out, it has to retreat. And with Volfi already on the board, there isn't actually a fantastic swap for this double combination of CPG and Soil Steam. Naga gets wrecked by the CPG, and Grumper and Scarable get wrecked by the Soil Steam. So a bit of an awkward dance that we're going to have to see from Genosect here. And again, saving this Tatsu for the end game to power up Saku and Tuvin's bulk so that it's going to be a huge wall that Geno might not be able to get through. And he might be running low on reserve time here.
3 seconds on the clock. It's going to be close.
Oh, no, it was Mag. It was Mag. It was Mag going into reserve. Yeah, as you can see, it's still going here.
Yeah. But this is what Magnetonics did in game 1. He's pinning a slot down. He's taking one side and he's pinning that down so that not only is there not a safe swap, but there's also not a safe stay-in either. As we see that CPG just taking out the guys on the swap, he had that side completely wide open.
It has not been a good day to be a Naga stan, I gotta tell you that much. That Tem not really accomplishing anything there. Gets smacked with a CPG, gets brought down. It going down creates a bit of a different board state now. The Volfi, of course, now threatens the KO on Gario with Plague, unless Magnetonics has built his Gario specifically to live Volfi Plagues, which is possible. It does require a lot of bulk, but it is possible.
Now, I do have a little bit of knowledge on that, seeing Magnetonics' streams previously. I know that this Gario is bulky as hell. Genosect knows that. I have no idea. Doesn't look like he wants to take that risk, though.
Bit of a risky click here. Yeah, brings the X4 in front of the Earth, but Mag blinks first, swaps it out. And the Scarable does an excellent job. Yeah.
A little bit of Thunderstrike chip on Saku is going to be scary for the Scare Revolt to Fiery Tornado threaten it. As of swaps, I guess you could bring the Gario back in. Would it be a bad idea?
Unless this is the double swap, Magnetonics kind of has to play whack-a-mole here. You know, has to play the cup game. Has to be like, okay, which side is the Fire Tornado going? You know, if it's going into Saku, Gary can come in and take it. If it's going into Tuveen, Gary can come in and take it. But if he guesses wrong, it's a very dicey position if Genosect then leaves on the other Tem and brings in Volfi. Saku's going to leave. Yeah.
Where is this going? Cross your fingers. Oh, it's going into the Gario.
Sorry, Genosect.
You're right.
You missed the cup game. Oh, Grumper with the self-stone wall. Genosect, in the final moments of this match, true to his character, throwing down the buff move. It is a very difficult game for Grumpy to win from here, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Scarrow likely has to leave now.
Something to mark on your calendars. I think that was the first buff move that we've seen from Genosect all tournament. Almost positive.
Yeah, I think you're right. Old habits die hard, they say. I wonder about how valuable that Stonewall is going to be. Grumper is very difficult to bring down, but there are lots of ways to kind of hinder it. I don't know if that's going to be correct. So Tatsu comes in here. This is the Diabolo turn for this Grumper. Oh, and he throws up a T-Strike. It's going to catch the Tatsu here.
No tag team live there. Is it double? No way.
Oh, Magnetonic. You have lost the cup game this time as down it goes. And Rockfall going to score a revenge kill back the other way.
That was a big Uno Reverso there.
Yeah, Mag going for the swap. Kind of punished for it. As we see Volfi come in. But Mag is starting to run out of swap options as the Diabolo is going to restore the Volfi to full HP. This is Genosect's last 2 Tems on the board, and the Grumper is low. However, if Volfi's... Oh, everybody stays in. This is unexpected here. Volfi goes for the Dust Vortex, anticipating the swap. It's solid damage into the Veen. And Mag reads that and goes for the Soil Steam. Grumper taking big damage. We see it as Inductor and not Coward's Rest.
Plague into Gario is not really necessary here. This is where you just want to take up the 2-Vine right slot, because Plague can come out to Gario at any point in time now. But
well, you have to
almost fresh Saku.
Well, that's not going to be enough, and that means Saku is going to be able to absolutely win this game for Mag. Grumper, the Stonewall not quite enough, not stalled enough. Tubing goes down to overexertion, and what will Gary do? That hyper-efficient water jet kind of punctuating this match as Saku is not really able to be hurt by Foxes.
No.
So it's going to just go ahead and chill out here, and we will see the GGs come out, and just like that, Magnetonics asserting himself into this match and scoring himself a spot in top 6. What were your thoughts on that one, B-Flat?
That was a 2-0 victory. Yeah, Magnetonics came right out of the gate. He was looking for the value of Tatsu very early on, and he had that pretty much all game until he swapped into the double Thunder Strike. The thing that I noted a couple of times is that he was pinning down a slot. He was really wanting to focus on, I believe it was the left side of Genosect, being able to ensure that he didn't have a safe swap, and if he kept something in, it was going to take major damage anyways, and that's where he was really coming out and shining. He was able to get a lot of pressure with Tatsu with the Haido Uchi. He had the show off in game 1. There was just not really a lot that Geno could come back from. It was just bulk versus bulk, but he got out-bulked.
Yeah, and I would offer that that's a position that Genosect as a player is likely not super experienced in being. Normally, if you get into a bulk versus bulk matchup and you're up against Genosect, you're in trouble, because Genosect is going to make his temps +8/+8, and you're never going to break them, and you're going to lose. But instead, this was a situation where actually it was Magnetonics who had the bulk advantage, right? He had tag team to work with, he had lots of more bulky temps like Saku and Gario that really just kind of like confounded the offense that Genosect was trying to create. The Volfi and like Yowler plays and like the Grumper, those temps can do a lot more damage when they're hitting Ociaras. They're hitting they're late tormenting into other low HP Volfis, right? Like there's nothing that can be done about them. But like if you set up a Plague Late Torment onto a Broccolum or like a Scaravolt or even like a Tatsu, you're not killing it right away, and that's a huge advantage for Magnetonics, and I think he played that position of advantage really well.
I really enjoyed how Magnetonics played Saku as well. Being able to pressure the Rock Goblin with the Narco hit, getting the turn 1 safe Lightful Sap, having it in the back for a safe swap against the Volfi whenever he needed it. Saku played... It wasn't on the board that often, but it did play a pretty vital role in that matchup. Just existing was enough for that Saku.
The third time, too, we've seen on stream, absolute Nagai's disrespect, right? Like, Saku in front of it, didn't Fawn Whip it, didn't Pedal Dagger it, just sat in front of it and said, what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? You knock yourself out, 15% of time. All right, so we're going to throw, I think that's it for us for today. We'll be back tomorrow. And again, we'll be, I think we're on the desk first, and we'll be happy to do top 6 on day number 2. I'm probably going to jump on my stream to do some of the lower bracket matches, so you guys can check that out. But in the meantime, we're going to continue our upper bracket coverage by heading over to everyone's favorite desk analysis, Gag Bomb and Jay. There you go. Take it away.
Have a good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.